Well, welcome viewers. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia, and I've decided to, as far as I can, rerun the Australian Royal Commission videos on the channel. I just don't want people to forget what happened back there. Obviously, the Jehovah Witnesses are pretty ignorant of the Australian Royal Commission. So I'm going to do everything I can to try and run these videos. It's going to be lengthy, but I want to open it with Barbara Anderson's Watchtower documents. I'll put the link below. The Australian Royal Commission by Barbara Anderson. An Australian Royal Commission held formal public hearings to examine evidence about child sexual abuse within religious and charitable organisations in that country, in Australia, in my country. There are over 30 of these ongoing investigations involving a large number of religions and charities. Each public hearing examined a number of individual case studies involving different public and private organisations. Jehovah Witnesses were among the religious organisations being investigated. The Commission wanted to know specifically how Jehovah Witnesses and the Watchtower Society responded to allegations of child abuse involving members of their congregations. In 2015, the Royal Commission's public hearings involving Jehovah Witnesses were scheduled and heard in Sydney starting on Monday, July the 27th, and continued through to August 14th, 2015. The intent of the hearings was to investigate the actual practices and policies of the Jehovah Witnesses and Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited in situations of reported and suspected child abuse or endangerment. Following up hearings were scheduled for spring 2017 to review the Watchtower of Australia's policy changes and plans for corrective action. 2017. On March 10, 2017, the Commission held follow-up hearings to hear the Watchtower representatives' descriptions of any corrective actions taken by the Australian branch of Jehovah Witnesses over the past 18 months. More than 5 hours of sessions, the Commission was not satisfied and clearly disappointed with the testimony and voiced their displeasure with the efforts and official responses by the Watchtower branch representatives. Now that's serious. You can follow this link if you want to hear the hearings. And I'm going to put these hearings up in this rerun of the Australian Royal Commission program. The scope and purpose of the hearings were to inquire into the experiences of survivors of child sexual abuse within the Jehovah Witness Church in Australia, the response of the Jehovah Witness Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited to allegations, reports or complaints of child sexual abuse within the Church, the systems, policies and procedures in place within the Jehovah Witnesses Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited for raising and responding to allegations of or concerns about child sexual abuse within the Church, and the systems, policies and procedures in place within the Jehovah Witness Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited to prevent child sexual abuse within the Church. During and after the hearings, the Commission provided witness lists, transcripts, exhibits, images and associated submissions for each case study and makes them publicly available on the Commission's website. And you can go to that website yourself if you want the evidence. Submissions. After hearing, the Council assisting the Royal Commission will provide witnesses and other people who were granted leave to appear at the hearing a written submission detailing what was discovered during the case study. The submission will outline key findings based on the hearing evidence and the recommendations likely to come from them. The recipients of the submission may then provide their own written submissions in reply. The Commissioners then consider this information and when they form their final recommendations during the course of the Royal Commission. In the articles below you will find videos of the live streams of the public hearings and transcripts of those hearings and complete sets of the exhibits used by the Commission that were provided by those involved in the case. Many of these exhibits have never been publicly available before. And here's some of the stuff you can see. But I'm going to go now to live footage from the Australian Royal Commission on the Jehovah Witnesses, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Church organisation. I hope you enjoy this series.
It's necessary for you to be sworn. Would you take an oath on the Bible?
Yes, certainly. Just excuse my voice a little bit, it's
That's all right.
problems.
Would you just hold the Bible and repeat after me? I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission
that the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the
and
truth.
nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Take a seat. Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Toole, will you state your full names, please?
Vincent Joseph Toole.
Do you have a copy to hand of your statement dated 10 July 2015?
Yes, I do.
Are there any amendments or corrections you wish to make to the statement?
No.
Do you confirm the statement to be true and correct?
Yes.
I tender the statement, Your Honour.
Mr. Toole's statement will be Exhibit 2923.
Now, Mr. Toole, as I understand it, you were baptised as a Jehovah's Witness in 1972, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
How old were you then?
I was born in 1948, so probably 23, 24.
And how did you come to be a Jehovah's Witness?
I moved into a unit with someone who was having a Bible study. I'd been brought up quite religiously. I'd attended a religious boarding school for 5 years prior to that, but after I left school, I basically stopped attending church. And later on, when I moved into this unit, this man was studying. I'd never really read a Bible before.
But Mr. Toole, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just looking for a short answer. So you were introduced through someone you were sharing?
Yes, and I studied and was satisfied this was the truth, and I wanted to dedicate my life to serve God.
Thank you. And you were appointed an elder, as I understand it, in 1977, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And as I understand it, between being baptized and being appointed an elder, typically there would be no formal full-time training that someone would go through before being appointed an elder.
No formal training, no.
Yes. So it would be through involvement in the various activities of the congregation and the teaching and so on, etc.
No tertiary education or anything like that. It was just involvement in the church, application and involvement as such.
Yes. And you were a circuit overseer from 1980 to 1989, is that right?
Yes.
And from 1989 you commenced working at the branch headquarters, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And would it be right to refer to that as Bethel?
Yes, that's another term.
And that term's also used to refer to the world headquarters in Brooklyn, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, when you commenced working at branch headquarters, is it then that you commenced your legal studies?
Yes, not long after I arrived there.
Yes. And did the branch committee or did the Jehovah's Witnesses then sponsor your legal studies?
Yes.
And in 1993, you completed those studies and were admitted as a solicitor, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And since then, you've done legal work for Jehovah's Witness Australia or Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society Australia on a voluntary basis, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And since 1995, you have also had your own legal practice under the name Vincent Toole Solicitor.
Yes, that's correct.
And that legal practice, does that do independent work outside of Jehovah's Witness work, or do you only do Jehovah's Witness work through that practice?
Primarily just Jehovah's Witness work, but I've done work for my family and other people.
Yes. But am I to understand you don't run it as a commercial law practice?
Not as a commercial practice, no.
And since 2010, as I understand it, you've had oversight of the legal department in Australia, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you were involved in the legal department, am I right, since 1989 and had oversight since 2010?
That's correct.
And I take it then you also live at Bethel?
Yes, I do.
And your daily needs are provided for as a member of the worldwide order of special full-time servants of Jehovah's Witnesses, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, in much the same way that Mr. Spinks described yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
And if I can refer to your statement and starting at paragraph 13.
Paragraph 13?
Yes. You say all elders serving in congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses throughout the world have been directed to contact the legal department in their local branch as soon as they learn of an allegation involving child sexual abuse. So am I to understand that there's a uniform process set out which applies throughout the world?
Subject to the fact, of course, that many branches mightn't have a legal department, but they would contact the branch there. But in Australia, we do have a legal department.
Yes. And that process, which is applicable throughout the world, that's determined by the governing body.
Well, it's a general direction throughout the world, as I understand.
Yes, and it's a general direction throughout the world determined by the governing body.
Well, as far as I understand, it's a direction that elders have been given.
Yes, but Mr. Toole, you seem to be trying to avoid what I understand to be quite well accepted, which is that it's the governing body that determines that direction.
That's what I understand, yes.
Yes. And that's typical, is it, of all Jehovah's Witnesses policies and procedures? That is, they're determined by the governing body and made applicable throughout the world.
Yes, the general policy would be determined by the governing body, but the application of it in the local setting would depend on the branch committee applying it to the relevant things in their local area.
Well, yes, whether a policy is actually followed in practice is a separate question, but dealing with the setting of what the practice is supposed to be, that's set by the governing body.
That's what I understand.
Yes. And coming to the question of responses to child sexual abuse allegations specifically, the Australia branch then follows the guidelines of the governing body, is that right?
The guidelines, but they will apply it in any way that needs to be adjusted in for the local area.
Well, let's just be clear on that. The particular application may vary from case to case, is that right?
Yes.
But that application is intended to be within the parameters of the policy or procedure itself, is that right?
Yes, I'd agree with that.
And it's the case, is it not, that the Australia branch office will not itself set any practice or policy to apply normatively unless it's been approved by the governing body?
In terms of policy, they will adjust it to the local circumstances. So, for example, if there was no legal department in Australia, for example, well, that direction wouldn't apply, so they'd have to adjust it to whatever the local situation was.
Well, there wouldn't then be a direction from the governing body that the legal department should be contacted. In a country where there was no legal department, the direction from the governing body, which the branch would then set or apply, would be that the branch office be contacted.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Now, is there a constitution by which the Jehovah's Witnesses internationally are governed?
I don't think I could answer that, but my understanding it's clearly just what the Bible has to say.
because just seeking to address it for a moment from a legal perspective, what I understand from the statements is that one has a governing body operating in, or situated in New York, but having an operation, I suppose, throughout the world, and then branches in various geographic areas, and also congregations
Yes.
within the jurisdiction of each branch. That's right so far, isn't it?
Yes.
And in Australia, it said that each congregation is in a legal sense, voluntary association. Is that right?
Yes.
And yet the congregations take their direction and instructions from the branch, which in turn takes its direction and instruction from the governing body. That would be right, factually.
Yes, I think that's a reasonable.
So now, by operation of what legal rule or norm does that occur? In other words, by what legal rule or norm does the congregation take its direction from the branch? Is there a constitution, a contract, a corporation? Is there something that does it?
Not that I'm aware of.
So is it not the case that the governing body sets out what the roles and responsibilities of all the various structures are and their relationship to each other, and the whole system internationally is operated in accordance with that?
You're really talking to me about an area I don't have much experience in terms of that. I just work in a local branch. But I think in general terms, what you're saying, I would understand to be correct.
And is there a manual or a document published by the governing body which sets that out, what its responsibilities are, what the branch's responsibilities are, and so on?
I'm unaware of any such document.
So is there not, to your knowledge, a document which sets out the responsibilities of each of the governing body committees, for example?
I have no knowledge about that whatsoever.
And a document perhaps which sets out how members of branch committees are to be appointed?
I have no knowledge about that. I've never seen or heard of such things.
Can I just understand, are you the senior lawyer advising the Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia?
I'm not sure about senior, but I look after the legal department. But I'm being asked questions about things that I really haven't been involved in at all.
I know, but I'm trying to get to understand your relationship to the management structure in Australia and in New York, you see. And normally in an organisation, if there's a legal department and a head lawyer, then that person's services would be used to advise in relation to documents, the meaning of documents, the drafting of documents and so on.
Nothing. I've never been involved in any of the document types of situations that I'm being asked about at all.
Well, and who in the branch here holds the reins? Where does
The branch committee.
The committee. And how many people are on that committee?
Probably 9 or 10, but it might be, it's around that figure. I'm not actually so certain, but it's somewhere around that figure.
And is that their job, to be members of that committee, or do they have other roles in the organisation?
They are appointed members of the branch committee. They collectively serve together, but they would have administrative roles at the branch doing different things.
At the branch, though?
Yes, at the branch.
They're all people who work at the branch?
Yes, they're at the branch.
And is one of them the head, as it were, of the committee?
I think it's first among equals. I don't think anyone's head of the branch committee as such, but Mr. O'Brien cares for the coordination of that particular branch committee. But I don't think anyone has greater authority or lesser authority. If you remember the branch committee, I understand you're an equal member with the branch committee.
And the next step in the hierarchic organisation of the Jehovah's Witness from the branch committee is to where?
I think the branch committee goes back to the governing body
in New York.
in New York. That's as I understand it.
Right. And do you know whether they have to provide a report to the governing body?
I've never been on a branch committee. I don't know what happens there.
You mean you work as the Jehovah's Witness lawyer, but you have no knowledge of what?
I have never been involved in a report given that way because it's not a legal matter. Nothing's been ever discussed with me about that.
And the branch committee members, Mr. Toole, are appointed by the governing body, is that right?
I understand that's the position, yes.
And you say your understanding is that the branch committee members are equals. One of them is actually designated coordinator. Is that not right?
Yes, I think he's the coordinator of the branch committee.
Yes, and that designation or responsibility also is an appointment by the governing body.
I believe so, but I'm not absolutely certain, but I believe so. I'm sorry I don't have a lot of information on that, but I've never been involved.
There are other copies coming shortly, but I'd just like to show you, there's a copy for you. I'd like to show you a document. You see it's headed branch organisation, effective December 15, 1977, revised February 2003, and it's said to be, what says this material is branch organisation, this material in a branch organisation, being the name of the publication, should not be copied or duplicated except with permission of the branch committee. It's published in the USA, take it or understand it by the governing body. Have you seen this publication before?
No, I have not.
Do you know if this is the current edition?
I would have no idea.
Your Honour, I call for any revision or subsequent addition to the publication branch organisation.
Your Honour, until just then it wasn't called for, but I'll have a look.
Sorry,
I'll have an inquiry made about it if there are revisions.
well, more than that, we'd like to know the answer.
Of course, Your Honour. Your Honour, without wishing to interrupt my learned friend's line of questioning, Mr. O'Brien is coming to give evidence today. It may be that some of these questions are best directed towards him.
Well, will let counsel take his course?
Of course, Your Honour. Understood.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.